Kamala Harris, you are as fake as press-on nails, and I can see right through you. Let me help you out with something, because maybe somebody must not have told you. On TV and on every interview, giving the same tired answer. So let me just help you out. When you are asked a question, why don't you try answering the question? People are not stupid. We can tell when you're dancing around the issue instead of answering the question. When you're asked, are people better off now or during Donald Trump's presidency? When you're asked about the border or your policies on immigration, answer the question. We don't care about your middle class upbringing. We don't care that your mama had to save up to buy a house. We don't care about your summer job at McDonald's. We don't care about the lawns of the neighborhood that you lived in and how everybody took care of their lawn. That does not matter to me, and it doesn't matter to anybody else. I want you to answer the question, because if people, my mind is already made up too, Kamala, because I can see right through you and I know that you fake. But for somebody else whose mind is not made up, let me just help you out. Answer the question so that they can decide between you and your opponent.
Harris would be the first woman president, first black woman president, and first Asian president. But I don't vote for who will be the first. I vote for who will win. And for whatever reason, Harris has never been popular. You can count the number of delegates she won in the 2020 primaries on one hand, as long as that hand has no fingers. In 3 years as vice president, she's been quieter than an electric car. It's not fair that she's not popular. She's intelligent and accomplished, and in fact was put in charge of the border. And look at how, okay, bad example.
So Bill is acknowledging nobody likes her. She has no track record of doing anything. And the few things that she was tasked with, or in this case, the one thing that she was tasked with in the last 3.5 years, she absolutely destroyed, which is the border.
There's a reason as to why they hid Kamala Harris for more than a month after being handpicked by her party. There's a logic to this, guys. Kamala Harris is not fit for speaking engagements where she doesn't have a script. You can cite the debate all you want, but we know for certain that she was prepared for that ABC debate. We can say that because all of her answers from then are still being repeated today, much like what she and Tim Walz continue to tout about their plan for the economy. They keep circling back to their middle class life when that doesn't even answer the question at all. Don't take my word for it, just watch this. And guys, before we get started, all I ask is that you take 1 second, hit the like button for the video, and thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I totally appreciate you guys. You're absolutely amazing.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people.
You know, we have ambitions and aspirations and dreams.
The ambition, the aspiration, the dream. I started my career as a prosecutor.
I was a career prosecutor for most of my career.
Having a background as a prosecutor, I intend to create an opportunity economy.
Developing and creating an opportunity economy.
What I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy.
And I want you guys to watch the body language here as Harris finished up her interview at the NABJ. Do you see the looks being shared here? And the VP doesn't even have the decency to look at the crowd before exiting. She just kind of waves them off because she knows that she bombed again. So I worked in the IT field for years, and luckily I happen to work for a company where we do business with a lot of different vendors. And one of these vendors used to take us out to lunch on a very regular basis. Let's just say like maybe once a month, once every 2 months. But when I say they would take us out to lunch, they would take us out to lunch. I'm talking about they would take us to some of these really fancy restaurants that I would only hear about or I drive past them. But they were very expensive places. And I'll be honest with you guys, I just wasn't in a position where I was willing to pay that kind of money for food. They're very expensive. I'll just put it that way. Anyway, so one day we go to lunch and right around, it was a late lunch. So right around, I don't know, like 1:30, 2 o'clock, we're leaving and we're waiting for the car to be pulled up because they have mandatory valet. So anyway, while we're waiting for our car to get pulled up, I'm staring at this beautiful black Ferrari 458, and I'm like, wow, this thing is crazy. I don't even get to see those kind of cars often. I don't know if it's just me being a car guy, but I just wonder sometimes, like, how do people afford these things? So after the valet pulls the car up, the owner starts walking towards it, and I just happen to say, hey man, that's a sharp car. So the owner turns around and says to me, thanks, I appreciate it. So then I say to him, since he seemed friendly, I was like, hey, is that your first Ferrari? So he turns around and he says, oh no, I have 6 more, but this is probably one of my favorite ones. I said 6 more? That response sparked a 2-minute conversation that I had with this guy. And let me tell you, what he shared with me in that brief 2-minute conversation completely changed my life. And it's life-changing conversations and lessons like this that I decided to share right inside of our Liberty Pursuit network. And to be honest with you, it really wasn't even so much the car that he was driving. It just made me think to myself, like, how does this guy just have the freedom to be able to live his life the way he did? Nice car, hanging out at a fancy restaurant in the middle of the afternoon. It really made me wonder, how do you do that? Anyway, when I was living paycheck to paycheck, I wish that I knew people like this that would kind of like let me know the inside scoop. So anyway, if you want to join like-minded people just like us, join us over in the Liberty Pursuit Network. I left a link for you guys in the description down below this video.
New polling is in today on the swing states from the Hill and from Emerson College. We'll get to the average point in a moment, but all of these polls right here, this is one poll, but all of these polls in the swing states, every single one of them is within the margin of error. Look, 48, 49, 50, 47, 49, 47. So it's as close as can be. What's interesting, if you take out the leans and just look at which direction that they're going, Trump, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, and also Pennsylvania has the slightest of advantages, where Harris is up in Michigan and North Carolina. Nevada's just completely tied. Now, if you focus on the big 3 so-called blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, we've had a decent amount of data come in since the debate in those states. And it's close. Very, very close.
And it is this fact that is pulling down her numbers in the polls. They hid her for way too long, and now everybody's waiting on her words. The problem is that it's been disappointing for many voters, especially independent voters who are still choosing between her and Donald Trump. Now, it's also very evident that mainstream media is shocked that Kamala Harris doesn't have as much support. I'm not shocked, though. I mean, she's been shown to have rallies with thousands of supporters, and yet it's hard to find one organically. Check out what CBS News said about finding supporters for the VP.
We had so much fun, but what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant, and we left no stone unturned. I approached every single person.
I believe that she would have gotten a better number if she notified Harris's team so that they could have bussed in more of a crowd. But it's this unpopularity that's being highlighted at the moment. A Rasmussen survey shows much of the same voters are connecting Harris to the poor performance of President Biden. And it makes sense because she's already in the White House, guys. The numbers show that more than half of voters feel as if Kamala Harris will offer more of the same, with less than 40% seeing her as a fresh start and a new direction. Now, what's really surprising for those at Rasmussen is that more than half of the respondents claim that Donald Trump is the fresh new start that they need. Now, remember guys, this guy has already been in the office. He's already held the White House for 4 years, and yet voters are saying that he is the one who can take this country into a new direction. It doesn't end there, because a whopping 73% of them say that the general conditions in our country is calling for a fresh start and a new direction. Top pollster John McLaughlin, he also confirmed that the race is tight, despite what you and I hear from mainstream media, mainly because what we hear has Harris absolutely leading Trump everywhere. But what they're not telling us is that 60% of voters are worried about the nation going down the wrong track. Of those voters, 78% believe that Kamala Harris will continue this trend. Not looking good for Harris. 74% believe that Trump will instead steer us away from it. Very good news for Trump. Now, I should also note that the numbers show that Kamala Harris is in for a steep drop in the polls, especially as she has no choice but to continue to hold interviews where she's left to answer off the cuff. Those never work out well for her. And it's for this reason, guys, as to why her team is basically begging Donald Trump for a debate rematch. One where they can have control once again, maybe do another 3-on-1 like they did during the ABC News debate, and place moderators who would fact-check Trump at every turn. But their luck may be running out, as Donald Trump has rejected any calls for another debate, especially since he's already proven his point. There's no plan under Kamala Harris. And if there is, it's just not feasible, which means that the last 4 years would only repeat itself. The situation for her is just literally so dire that even people who dislike Donald Trump admit that he's got their vote.
Even those here, like Stanley Benedict, not fully enamored with Trump, plan to vote for him.
He's got a big ego, and sometimes it's a little too big. He'll toot his horn a lot. But I support him because he proved himself.
So what do you guys think about that? Has Donald Trump proven himself within the 4 years that he served? And in retrospect, was life better under Donald Trump compared to now? I'm just curious. And this is where we have a disconnect with reality. Many attest that Kamala Harris was not good for the American people, nor was she helpful to the black community. She is simply pandering for votes, and it's why she avoided all these interviews. It's why she claims to be black when many deny her to be a black woman. It's alleged that Kamala Harris's team insisted that ABC News not ask her any questions about her time as a prosecutor. And now we know why. The story comes from a black mother, a black woman, a real black woman who went up against the power of one of Kamala Harris's. And just for context, this is about the truancy program that Kamala Harris herself pushed for in the state legislature. This law allowed district attorneys to charge parents with a misdemeanor if their children miss 10% of the school year without a valid reason.
I intend to fight for Black Lives Matters. I intend to fight.
If Black Lives matter to her, why didn't I matter?
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
My message to all Americans, especially Black Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
I'm so proud of you right now, because you walked all the way down here and I wasn't expecting you to walk.
My daughter, Shayla, suffers from sickle cell anemia, a chronic, painful genetic disease.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick.
It's a very sharp stabbing pain, and it hurts a whole lot. Like from my chest all the way down, it hurts, including my side.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
When Kamala Harris was the California Attorney General, she had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I spent a majority of my time here at the hospital.
Kamala's horrible policies hurt mothers like me and the Black community.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but a debilitating disease isn't as easy as Kamala Harris might think it is. And it's a perfectly valid reason to miss school. However, she wasn't looking into that at all. She somehow hates the details of these kinds of things. She just wants to win cases and put people in jail at any cost. And this is why this mother is extremely disappointed and hurt, from one black woman to another. Now, just imagine having the cops show up and handcuff you because your child missed a couple days of school. What kind of tyrant thinks that this is okay for the parent or the child?
My mom did nothing wrong. We did everything we were supposed to. I was always bringing doctor's notes, always calling the school to let them know that I was in the hospital.
Then they handcuff me. So they take me outside for what you call a perp walk. And oh my God, the TV news was there, the newspapers were there. You could swear I had killed somebody. It was degrading and humiliating. I was taken to the Criminal Justice Center. They took my mugshot. I was fingerprinted like a criminal, and I was terrified.
And it felt like I caused her so much pain, because in reality, it is because of me, even though I know it's not directly my fault.
I mean, this is more than just a power trip. And they use this poor woman as the poster child for Kamala Harris's program. She ruined that single black mother's life, and likely the life of the child. Kamala Harris used this black single mother as an example of truancy, without even acknowledging the situation behind why her daughter was missing so much school. Now, it's really crazy to think that somebody with this kind of mindset is the vice president of the United States. And now she wants to be the commander-in-chief? But listen to how drunk on power she is from just a few years ago.
I learned, I think I was, 22 when I started that work. I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. And because of the swipe of my pen, that person could be arrested. They could sit in jail for at least 48 hours. They could lose time from work, and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community. All because of the swipe of my pen. Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
And I think she was remembering the story because she destroyed the life of this family. And from the looks of it, Harris was looking back on some fond memories.
But my hell was just beginning. They gave me 2 charges: failure to supervise and encourage school attendance and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I couldn't believe it. They framed my daughter as a gang member and basically charged me with neglect. I spent the next 2 years in court fighting these charges. Kamala assigned her nastiest prosecutors to my case.
My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
Like 10 different prosecutors. They kept pressuring me to plead guilty and spend a year in jail. But I kept refusing because I did nothing wrong. All the time I had to spend going to court, I was struggling to care for my Shayla. I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
And I ended up being in the hospital a lot during her trial. And in that hospital stay was when I had my stroke.
I had a stroke about 4 or 5 days ago, and right now I'm doing pretty good. My hand is doing okay, I guess.
In 2015, after 2 years, they finally just gave up and dismissed my case.
Is this the kind of governance that our country needs? A prosecutor who doesn't even need all of the information provided before they make an arrest? I mean, it's truly heartbreaking just to see and hear these kind of stories. But we gotta be informed, guys, because this is the kind of stuff that mainstream liberal media will block out. Just check out this breakdown from Fox's Laura Ingraham.
The devil's bargain. That's the focus of tonight's angle. I want you to ignore most of the commentary you've heard from the pundit class on the debate last night. As usual, the talking heads misread the concerns of millions of Americans watching at home. Tonight, I'm going to give you the key takeaways from the debate. First, ABC's moderators were essentially acting as Kamala Harris's debate coaches. Time and again, they served up softballs with 0 follow-ups.
Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. What would you do to fight climate change?
A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
You're great. Do you agree you're great? Now, this was entirely predictable. Now, remember, a top exec at Disney, whose portfolio includes ABC News, is a longtime pal of Kamala Harris. But another key point, and I think very, very important, is that Vice President Harris showed us last night that she's really not a lot more than a puppet of the failed D.C. establishment. Now, she took weeks to rehearse, during which she said had no adversarial press interviews, and then, with a friendly panel, showed that she can memorize some lines and speak in platitudes. From the start, Harris knew she would not be fact-checked or asked real follow-up questions. But still, even with her absurd ABC running mates helping her, Harris revealed a lot about herself. And the picture was not altogether positive. Regular Americans who don't sit in studios like this, who don't get paid to talk for a living, will not be moved.
She didn't talk about her policy changes between 2020 and 2024. Her whole centrist, moderate stance is just a facade.
She's saying she can fix the problems that her administration has caused, but I just don't know if I can afford to take that risk.
All these policies that she's saying she's going to implement on day one on presidency, why does she have to wait until, January 20th to do that?
So yeah, it wasn't just Laura Ingraham or Fox News. Even voters are unconvinced by that ABC debate and Kamala Harris. So yeah, guys, bottom line, if history is any indication, things are turning up for Donald Trump, especially in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at it from the left-leaning news network CNN.
All right, Harry, talk to us about what the states look like, the battleground states.
Yeah, so look, this is about the Electoral College, right? So let's take a look at the average margin. Nationally, Harris is ahead in the average poll by 2.5 points. But look in those 7 key battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Harris is only ahead by 0.3 3 points, John. So the bottom line is, in those 7 key battleground states, it's a significantly tighter race than it is nationally, John.
So Al Gore and Hillary Clinton are calling right now, Harry, asking what the chances are that Harris could win the popular vote but lose in the Electoral College.
Okay, so basically, you note that 2.5 point lead nationally here, right? Okay, Harris's chances, if she wins the popular vote by 2 to 3 points, the chance she wins the Electoral College is only 53%. The bottom line is, once you have to get all the way north to about 3 to 4 points for Harris to have a clear chance, the clear majority chance of winning the Electoral College. If she only wins by less than 2, look at that. Only a 23% chance of winning. Right now, Harris is right now in that danger zone where basically about half the time, given that popular vote margin nationally, she would win. And so here's the situation. Chance Harris wins the popular vote at this point is about 70%, but the chance she wins the Electoral College is only about 50%. So the bottom line is, at this hour, John, there's about a 20% chance that Kamala Harris wins the popular vote, but actually loses in the Electoral College. So we could be heading towards one of these splits that we saw in 2016 and in 2000, whereby one candidate, Kamala Harris, wins in the popular vote, but loses in the Electoral College. Basically, at this hour, we're right in that sort of weird middle zone where we honestly don't know what's going to happen based upon the popular vote. And that is why those national polls that show Kamala Harris ahead, at this point, really don't matter that much.
Now, in case you guys didn't catch that, guys, that was CNN senior anchor Henry Enton admitting on national television that all those national polls that have Harris up really don't even matter that much. Also, that debate, it didn't even register any meaningful change in the polls. So it looks like we're going to see Hillary Clinton 2.0 happen because Donald Trump won that ABC debate easy enough, even though they gave Kamala Harris all the questions ahead of time, at least according to many critics online. So yeah, now that the dust is finally settling after the first debate between Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, we see the real situation reveal itself. The political elites, they're just plain oblivious to how Kamala Harris missed the mark in achieving her goals big time. I mean, sure, you got most mainstream media, news outlets and channels saying that Kamala Harris won, but when you look really closely, it's the political elite, including a number of famous Republicans, completely misreading what happened in the confrontation between the ABC News Harris team and their sole opponent, President Donald Trump. You know what the American people saw? Well, let me tell you guys. Every Trump supporter and many independents saw the blatant bias of ABC's moderators, who appeared less like neutral hosts and more like active debaters helping Harris take on President Trump. Needless to say, guys, viewers are outraged. I've even heard some people outright condemn both ABC and Vice President Harris. Now, one comment online said ABC didn't have to give her the questions. She was clearly giving them the questions. Considering the fact that one of Kamala Harris's close friends runs ABC News only reinforces this idea. For a lot of Americans, the fix was in and the whole thing was rigged. Now, let me tell you guys, the people know what's what. Trump supporters, they make up about 48% of Americans who feel that there is a corrupt establishment trying to control their lives and rip them off. The obvious bias displayed by ABC News during the debate, it didn't help convince them otherwise. In fact, the whole thing only reinforced their beliefs and basically solidified Harris as part of that establishment. Now, I personally know people both in our comments and in real life that are basically downright furious about the debate, and they're frustrated by how Harris seemed to underestimate their intelligence. Harris didn't help their case either. Instead, the vice president spent much of her time pulling faces and trying to look cute for the audiences at home. And if you guys watched the whole thing, you would see how her behavior came across more like that of a spoiled teenager than a potential commander-in-chief of the country. Now, again, this is the political elites at work, guys. You see, the elites, they tend to prioritize style over substance, and they expect everyone to play along as if they're at some fancy Washington cocktail party. But we know better. Now, what's really surprising for those at Rasmussen is that more than half of the respondents claim that Donald Trump is the fresh new start that they need. Now, guys, I did a recent live stream that I believe is important for you all to watch right now. This is regarding Donald Trump's recent rally in Arizona, where multiple supporters allegedly suffered eye injuries. The ones that were most affected were those who sat right behind Donald Trump in this rally. Now, you have to wonder, was this a botched fourth assassination attempt against Donald Trump's life? Make sure you guys click on that video next. You can go to my channel, click on the live tab, and check that video out next. But as always, thank you guys for hitting the like button and subscribing. I will see you guys on the next one.